we offer COBRA to? Well, the answer simply is qualified beneficiaries. Now, there are three major qualified beneficiaries that we need to be aware of. The first one is covered employees. Now, this just isn't any employee. This is a covered employee, and the little sub-bullet there is by far the most important part. It's an employee that's covered on a COBRA-eligible group health plan, of course, one day before the qualifying event. Now, this is simple. I'm an employee. I'm on a health plan. I have a qualifying event tomorrow. I've been on the health plan at least one day before. I'm going to get offered COBRA. Nice and simple. So covered employees on those COBRA-eligible group health plans, at least, again, that one day before the qualifying event. Of course, the second group are spouses and dependent children. So at my house, this might be my wife and my children. Of course, they, just like me, must be covered on that COBRA-eligible group health plan, of course, one day before the qualifying event. So this leads to some people not being allowed on COBRA or not being offered COBRA because they're not, by definition, a qualified beneficiary. Of course, we see covered employees and spouses and dependent children. Well, spouses here, we have to rely on the state definition of spouse. Since the Defense of Marriage Act from 1996 was partially repealed, spouses are defined by applicable state laws. So we must rely on the state definition of spouse, which means we have 50 different states. Of course, just because there's covered employees, spouses, and dependent children doesn't mean that there's other people that can't be on the health plan. For example, some states, some plans might allow domestic partners or people that are joined in a civil union. Or some organizations even allow grandchildren or dependent parents. Of course, when you look at the definition of a qualified beneficiary, you don't see domestic partners. You don't see partners in a civil union. You don't see those grandchildren. You don't see those dependent mothers, dependent fathers. Even though they might be allowed on a health plan, they're not considered qualified beneficiaries in the eyes of COBRA. So what do? Well, many companies choose, now keep in mind, choose to offer them coverage as well. Of course, the COBRA regulations require that you only offer COBRA to the qualified beneficiaries, which are very specifically stated with the covered employees and, of course, the spouses and dependent children covered on those COBRA-eligible group health plans the day before a qualifying event. Of course, these two groups are the only people that are allowed to be considered qualified beneficiaries before any type of qualifying event occurs. This third bullet that you see down here, where it says children born to or children that are adopted by another QB or another qualified beneficiary while on COBRA, these are other examples. Now, this might be where some guy comes home and says, honey, I quit my job today. I've had it. I don't want to be there anymore. We can just continue our coverage under COBRA. And the wife might say, well, honey, guess what? I'm pregnant. We're going to have a baby. Well, when that baby comes, as long as they're able to be added onto the plan due to the plan document, of course, those children, because they were born to another qualified beneficiary while on COBRA, would also be considered a qualified beneficiary. Of course, children that are adopted by any of the QBs are also considered qualified beneficiaries in the eyes of COBRA. Of course, as a QB, this would allow them, these dependent children or children that were adopted by, eligible for things like a 36-month qualifying event in case there was a second qualifying event.